Some account exec will get up and he'll say, okay, here's an idea. Let's run it up the flagpole and see if anyone salutes it. I mean, it's idiotic, but it's funny. Huh?
Over the weekend, we saw Kevin Feige, or perhaps Bob Iger, run this up the flagpole, hoping that we would all salute. The actual reaction is so depressing, it honestly should have them all crying in a bathtub, eating ice cream straight from the container. Because while some diehards did cheer the news, and some people that have been spurned by Disney had a good laugh at their expense because of their obvious desperation, the overwhelming majority of reactions can be summed up as, well, that's a thing that's happening.
Why is no one having a good time? I specifically requested it.
That response honestly gives me some hope for the general audience because it signals that more people are developing standards, which have been missing for some time. For a few years now, more people have been using the
"don't be so critical, just drink the slop and turn your brain off and enjoy it"
excuse, which was frankly terrifying. The thought that so many in the audience are simply mindless zombies who would gladly watch the ad channel or ow my balls and not complain scares me. But my faith in humanity was restored, if ever so slightly, by the overwhelming meh that met the Dr. Downey Jr. reveal. That response should terrify the top brass at Disney, though, because apathy is the worst possible attitude in the audience. But that's what they've cultivated. Unfortunately, this kind of obvious nostalgia bait is not new at the Mouse House. In fact, it's pretty much par for the course these days. So let's look at that constant, desperate rehashing of their own content. Then let's discuss the ways that this Doctor Doom sitch could go. And I want to end today with some of the defenses of this casting because there are a few valid counterpoints, even if I don't personally agree with them. Disney is not the only desperate party here, though. As usual, I'm desperate to get you to hit that like button. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. If you're wondering why everyone is feeling nonplussed about this casting gimmick, or if you yourself are feeling it, but you just can't pinpoint why, allow me to sum it up. Disney has had next to no original ideas in years, and those that were have been middling at best. For quite some time now, they have been writing their own coattails, which is a phrase that I bet has a nasty definition on Urban Dictionary. They have been existing by continually reminding you of old Disney and how much you used to love that stuff. So your current offerings are constant key jangling or outright repackaging of the childhood memories that you hold dear. Sometimes it's not innocent repackaging and they defile your heroes. It goes on and on and on. Disney Star Wars has been doing this for years. Remember Boba Fett? You love him, right? He was cool. Remember Obi-Wan? Aren't you excited? Even in the recent Acolyte, they couldn't help but reference other, better things to try to keep you interested. Speaking of the Acolyte, you regulars might know that I started working on a script to summarize that whole season, and I started writing it, and it's almost 2 hours long, and that's just the writing. I put off all the Leslie Headland morality evil stuff for the second part. It's so bad. I don't know how to stop coming up with reasons that it's awful. Why try to write a new Indiana Jones story? Let's just have Harrison Ford shamble out onto the stage again. Before The Marvels was pinched off in a theater near you, they released a final trailer that opened up with a montage of big moments from phases 1 through 3 to try to get you to remember what you used to love about this franchise. That movie also ended with a hint that they might finally be pulling out the X-Men. Come on, you love Kelsey Grammer. Come on. Pixar's first excellent film in years is merely the same ideas from the first movie. Now this ties into those counterpoints that I mentioned because I ding them for regurgitating the same ideas, but the execution was great. So it's obviously not always bad. Usually, but not always. Almost always, but not always. Before Inside Out 2, Pixar had a string of middling crap with only one of them barely crawling across the break-even line. Lightyear crapped all over Buzz, and the others might be said to be okay at best. You can find folks who say they enjoy them, but they're not on anyone's short list of Pixar greats, which is a whole separate, serious problem for Disney. Their next two entries are Elio, which looks so bland I can't even come up with jokes about it, and it was rumored to be pushed back by company leadership because they also knew it was terrible. And they also have Toy Story 5. Oh, God. Then you got Disney Animation Studios, which sharded out Wish last year, which I partially defended as being not as awful as some of you are making it out to be. And I stand by that, as weak a defense as that is. To call it horrific would suggest passion. And I think it was like on par with Frozen 2. It was just lazy. Somebody realized the centennial was coming up, and they stuffed that movie with every Easter egg they could think of, regardless of whether it made sense or not, hoping that you'd be too distracted by constantly pointing and going, hey, I remember that! Before that, they gave us Strange World, which I honestly can't even comment on because I'm not one of the dozens of people who saw it. What's next from the studio? Moana 2, and then Zootopia 2. And of course, there are the live-action remakes, which I'm using my sarcastic quotation fingers for because they are largely CGI. This is the ultimate dalliance with Walt's corpse, the most tacit admission they'll ever give you that they are absolutely bankrupt creatively. Those live actions are the clearest signal that they have no clue what to do, so they'll simply redo the old stuff. Recently, I saw a video comparing them to a cargo cult, which was a term that I'd never heard before, but perfectly describes the situation. They have no idea where the good things from the past came from, so they are simply copying parts from that time, hoping that cobbling together some combination of the artifacts and rituals of that era will summon the success that they don't know how to create. Disney's dramatic downfall derives from deconstructing dependable delights, disastrously derailing and diminishing distinguished domains, ditching dynamic dialogue, and dissing their dependable devotees. Desperation drives this diluting of distinct and dazzling dramas into dull, derivative dross and detritus, delivering disjointed dung, devoid of depth and daring, doubling down on duplicitous diversity and deeply damaging the deflated dynasty. Disillusioned, we drift, dispersing dejectedly due to disregard. Depressing. And now, with the MCU cratering before our very eyes, we get this hilarious Hail Mary, announcing that Robert Downey Jr. will return to play Dr. Doom in 2 movies, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, some of this last-minute pivot is not their fault, admittedly. They had no choice but to recast Jonathan Majors as Kang. But even if they had a choice, Kang was not set up to be a great villain. It seems pretty obvious they have no idea where these current phases are going. Phases 1 through 3 were heading toward the Infinity War, and that was clear quite early on. They peppered in Thanos and the Stones and built the entire franchise toward these 2 movie moments. After Endgame, they seemingly have no plan, resorting to throwing characters at the wall to see what sticks. Now we have multiple teams, maybe New Avengers, Young Avengers, Thunderbolts, Eternals, perhaps? Are they... No, they're gone? Okay. Fantastic Four coming in? Probably the X-Men? What is all of this building toward? How are we going to fit all of this on screen? I don't think anyone at Disney Marvel truly knows. I don't believe there was ever a solid roadmap to build movies around the way phases 1 through 3 were. Now, they have a heading, and it's Dr. Doom. More than that, it's Robert Downey Jr. It can seemingly go one of 2 ways. Either he's evil Tony Stark from another part of the multiverse, which would continue the multiverse crap that the audience is not loving, or he has zero connection to anyone and he'll just be Victor Von Doom and no one will say anything, confirming that it was bait casting all along.
New mask. Same task.
What do you think? Now, obviously, I'm pessimistic on the whole thing, but there are some counterpoints, and they aren't just the usual
Turn your brain off and enjoy it. It's just a superhero movie. Don't be so serious.
excuses you generally hear. These are valid arguments. One big one that I'm seeing is that they're bringing back the talent behind the camera as well. This tends to get lost under the headlines of RDJ. The Russo brothers will be directing both movies, and one of their favorite writers, Stephen McFeely, will be coming with them. This crew is responsible for some of the better installments in the MCU saga. You got Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Notably absent is usual McFeely partner Christopher Marcus, and I can't find any reason why he isn't there, but it looks like he isn't. Okay, so this is a bright spot. Some will say that they aren't just doing a gimmick with RDJ, they are shoring this thing up from all sides, and I can see the point they have here. The addition of these directors and writers is a tick in the column for this all being a genuine effort. I would argue that bringing these folks back is in the same vein as the RDJ hire, just, engaging in the rituals that were happening when all the money was being made without an understanding of why, but this is still a good topic, and I think reasonable people can debate on this. The other point that I'm seeing is that we should just be happy they are listening to the fans and going back to what works. I can't be angry at anybody saying this. I can't. I understand what it's like to want so badly to like a thing, and you've got hope that it's moving in the correct direction. I don't think this is a genuine response to fans. I think it's desperation, but I'm open to being proven wrong when the final movie shakes out. I would never knock anyone for thinking this way, but I also think the current climate at Disney gives me plenty of right to be pessimistic and not be hyped just because of a couple hiring announcements. But those of you who are excited because you think they're listening to you, I'm excited for you, genuinely. Regardless of whether this is all above board or not, my prediction is that it's not going to work. Even if everything is honest, and this is a real effort to serve the fans, these phases are so screwed up at this point, not even genuine talent like RDJ, the Russos, and McFeely can make something from nothing. When Civil War and the Infinity movies happened, they had good character arcs to work with. Both Captain America and Iron Man are astoundingly well-written characters. They are matched up with great actors, but the characters themselves were fantastic. The dynamic between those two allowed Civil War to be, in my opinion, the very best MCU movie to date. I don't want to detract from the skills of anyone involved, but they had good stock to work with. They made great movies, in part because they had great raw materials. Phases 4 and 5 are like warped Home Depot studs with cheap Chinese screws and scotch tape, along with some tools that appear to be marked as snap-on. There's only so much you can do with that, regardless of skill. I understand the folks who want to see MCU greatness again. It's just too little too late. I want to see that greatness too. But this universe is cooked. It's collapsing under its own complicated weight. It can't support various one-offs like Eternals and Shang-Chi, along with necessary show viewing on Disney+. If they want to be great again, they need to scrap it and start fresh. But the egos at Disney will never do that. And by the time they attempt it with the Secret Wars Battle World reset in 2027, it will be too late. But those are just my thoughts. Now, I want to know what you think. Does this announcement reek of desperation to you, or is it a bright spot on the horizon that you think will continue to grow into a fun new future? I'm eager to hear what you think. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.